With Hank Pym and obviously Janet, there's been in the past in the comic books like domestic abuse, spousal abuse, especially in the Ultimates. Do you think that the franchise will ever, include any of that element or touch upon that? Or do you think that actually the kind of MCU is not really a place to really delve into those quite, real issues?
Right. I do think they have been dealing with difficult issues. The issue of the domestic violence that existed in the original comic books was something that was talked about at length before they started the first AntMan film, because they have Hank Pym, they have Janet Van Dyne, they have Hope, and Hope was estranged from her father, and she hated her father. And, there was a very big question, and I posed the question, is part of that hatred to do with the fact that he was a drunk and he was violent towards her mother? And I think after a lot of back and forth discussion, the decision was made that they really wanted this to be a family franchise, and that was not something that they wanted to put on a pedestal. Because, of course, Hank was the original AntMan and is sort of a paramount figure in our films, and we didn't want to in any way glamorize domestic violence, which is, I think, the danger in a surreal world when you can't bring home the hard-hitting truth of the dangers and horror of domestic violence. When you have to kind of candy coat everything, it's a very, I think it's very dangerous to go there.
Do you think that there could be an element of delving into the deeper, darker moments of these characters?
I doubt it's going to happen in the AntMan world. We seem to be going in a more humorous, comedic, familial sense. There's more than enough darkness to go around in the AntMan world. So it may, but I don't imagine it's going to happen that way.
I think that we have established kind of a personality with AntMan and with the AntMan and the Wasp now that is different, a little different than the rest of the MCU, yet still functions within it. And I don't see it having any sort of gear shift. I don't even know what the future, in all honesty, of the films are. Marvel is pretty good at kind of keeping things close to their chest. But I don't. That would be a question, I bet, for Peyton.
People always refer to this really single panel from an old AntMan thing of Hank Pym, and it was Hank Pym in his Yellow Jacket phase, which in the comics, there was this whole sort of mental thing that was happening. It just never seemed relevant to the MCU story that we were telling with Hank Pym.
But the Ultimates, though, the one that Mark Millar did, isn't there that whole thing?
Yeah.
It's quite a kind of, Janet leaves and...
Yeah, but I think there's never been an onus on us in the MCU movies to have any sort of real fidelity to specific stuff in the canon. Fans may want certain things, but it really, that never occurred to us, even from the very beginning, to be a part of it, even as far back as Edgar and Joe's original drafts for the first AntMan. What was different for us was it's the only MCU movie really where there's like a mentor and a pupil character. What I did like was having Michael Douglas play Hank Pym. I did like the idea of creating a kind of screwed up mentor where he does have anger issues and he has ego issues. And that's something we expanded in this movie. Definitely, it's just thematic that Hank Pym in his past did not always play well with other people, and that maybe one of the many things Janet brought to that partnership was kind of evening that out. And I liked also that it ties into the creation of Ghost, that really, though Hank is not directly responsible for that, maybe it calls into question, does his ego sort of create the situation that helped create her? She holds him personally responsible. But that seemed like intriguing stuff to us. But there was never a point where we felt like, oh, this is canon. It wasn't like taking a cape off of Superman and people being in uproar. It was that one storyline, which was, I think that's the thing in the Marvel comics. All the different artists and writers sort of adapt the characters in different decades to sort of do what they want to do with it. And that wasn't the Hank Pym that we wanted to tell.